free. We have some introductions to make, so if you are so inclined.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Armoury Quadrangle Civic Association and the South End Citizens Council 2021 City Council Candidate Forum. This meeting is being recorded. Hello, I'm Shane Millett, Vice President of the South End Citizens Council. I'm also the Civilian Coordinator of the Metro Unit C3 Police and the Chairman of the Sector E Community Beach Management Team. We would like to thank all the incumbents and challengers for their time. Thank you all for being here. We, the South End Citizens Council, want to thank the Armoury Quadrangle Civic Association for collaborating with us on this meeting. Thank you guys very much. It's my pleasure to welcome the Armoury Quadrangle Civic Association President, Betsy Johnson.
And I was just going to welcome everyone. And my plea for the evening is the fact that the last time there was a council-only election, I forget now which year that was, only 10% of Springfield's eligible voters actually participated. And so I think one of the things that I'm hoping everyone who's here tonight does is not only make sure they vote, but they get at least 5 other people to vote, and preferably some people who did not vote in previous city elections when they weren't along with some bigger election, and particularly when it was the council only election. I guess unfortunately the last day to register was like yesterday, or maybe it's, yeah, it was yesterday, but hopefully there's folks are still registered because of the presidential election. But so just let's keep really letting people know there is an election. Luckily, Virginia is making elections in the news a lot, if people listen to the news at all. So and we can say, oh, well, there's one in Springfield as well. So thank you all for coming. And I'm going to turn it over to let my co-president, neighborhood council president, Leo, say a few things as well.
Thank you, Betsy. And again, just to follow up with everybody else and just say thank you for being here tonight. You know, we're happy to have you all. For some of you, it's actually our first time to get a chance to meet with you. So, you know, we're going to move this along. I know there was one question that was asked to us from one of the counselors. They had a question exactly in the South End. What are our boundaries, or what part of the city do we actually, you know, entail? And basically, real quick, anything south of State Street, down to Mill, the west side of Maple Street, right down to the river. That's our small little area. That's the South End. So again, thank you for being here, and good luck to everybody in the election.
Thank you both for joining us. Before we start, I ask that everybody remain on mute and please put all questions in chat. Please state your name, and if your question, comment, or concern is to all or a specific city council incumbent or challenger. Here to moderate our forum, please welcome Linda O'Connell, board member of the Armoury Quadrangle Civic Association. Linda.
Thank you, Shane. So we are encouraging our participants who are not running for office to, as the councilors are speaking and their challengers are speaking, feel free to put your questions in the chat. You don't have to hold them to the end. Shane will be monitoring them for our question and answer period. So again, thank you, counselors and challengers, for being here. Just very briefly, I think you've all seen the rundown of the format, but we will begin with opening remarks for a minute, close with opening remarks for a minute, and in the middle, we hope we have a very lively format that will allow us to ask many questions and raise many issues of concern that have been submitted by the members of our neighborhood councils. So in the middle, we will have 8 questions for which you will have 45 seconds to answer. Half of you will get a question in each round of questioning. And then at the end of 4 questions, there will be another round in which all of you may speak again for 45 seconds. You may either answer a question that you didn't get. If you'd like to, you can respond to another person's answer, or you can expand on an answer that you'd given if you think you weren't finished. So you will get this sound when you have 15 seconds left to answer. You will get ding. And then when your time is up, whether it's the 30 seconds, whether it's the 45 seconds or the minute, you'll get 2 dings. So we think that should work. Did everybody hear that? Just nod heads. Yes. Okay. We think we got a good bell going here. So let us begin with our opening remarks, and our order for questioning is randomized. So I will simply ask you to speak. And because we're all friends here, we hope, I'm going to use first names rather than referring to counselor and candidate. So may we begin with Tracy Whitfield. Tracy, take it away. 1 minute opening remark.
Thank you very much, Linda. Thank you to the Armoury Quadrangle Civic Association and to the South End Citizens Council for having us tonight. I'm going to go really quickly. I do have to leave the forum, and I just want to apologize for those that didn't hear that before, but my name is Tracy Whitfield. I'm a lifelong resident to the city of Springfield, a proud product of the Springfield Public Schools. I got a bachelor's with a concentration in finance and a master's in accounting and taxation from American International College. And I think the question is, what sets me apart from other candidates? And I'm going to say 2 things. One is my financial background. And so with that ability, I'm able to ensure that there is transparency in government spending, and there is transparency in the accounting of, I'm sorry, that bell threw me off, in the accounting of the city government. And also my current role as the equity, inclusion, and diversity coordinator for the town of West Springfield. I want to make sure all resources are available and equitable to all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Jesse.
Good evening. Thank you so much, Linda. Thank you to the Armoury Quadrangle Civic Association and the South End Council for organizing tonight's forum and for all your service to the city. My name is Jesse Letterman. I'm a lifelong resident of Springfield, and I'm currently serving my 2nd term as one of your at-large city councilors. I live in the McKnight neighborhood on Worthington Street, just a few blocks away from where I grew up and up the road from all of you. During my first 2 terms, I've been really proud to work together with residents in your neighborhoods and across our city on initiatives and legislation to build our city up. This includes stopping construction of the proposed biomass incinerator, protecting residential buildings and homes from corporate short-term rental companies, and holding public utilities accountable for repairing gas leaks. I'm running for re-election to continue building upon the work that we've done together. I have high hopes for the next 2 years as we work to shepherd our city to a post-pandemic future that finds us in a better place than we were before. I look forward to answering your questions tonight, and thank you all for your consideration.
Thank you, Counselor. And did Catery get here? I don't see Catery Walsh, who will have to be texting her. Okay, so Justin, will you sign in, please?
Absolutely. And thank you, Linda, and thank you to the Armoury Quadrangle Civic Association, as well as the South End Citizens Council. I was born and raised in the city of Springfield, graduated from the Springfield Public Schools. Upon graduation, attended the University of Virginia. And I always wanted to come back to the city that had given so much to me. So upon graduation, I came back and was a high school English teacher full-time, and went to the went to Western New England University part-time. Wanting to have more of an impact than just the 30 kids in my classroom, I decided to run for office. I'm currently serving in my 4th term. It's an honor and privilege to serve the citizens of Springfield, and I look forward to serving another term if elected. In terms of what sets me apart, I think I have bold leadership. I'm certainly going to tackle the tough questions. and never going to run from issues that, you know, might seem difficult. I think transparency is critical, and that's what I look forward to bringing to government.
Thank you very much. Sean Curran.
Good evening. My name is Sean Curran. I'm currently running for my second term on the Springfield City Council. It's been a unique 2 years, as most of these meetings that I've participated in have been via Zoom. And as a freshman counselor, I've very few times have we been in the chamber, and that I thought was a unique experience as a freshman city councilor. One thing I found serving in the city council, no matter what our stances are on various issues, all of my colleagues at large and at ward are very civic-minded individuals and come to work every day, really with one goal in mind, and that's the betterment and improvement of the city of Springfield. So I'm proud to be a part of that effort. What sets me apart, perhaps, is my resume. I've worked for about 10 years representing the city of Springfield on Beacon Hill as a state representative. And so I understand the funding resources from that end, which is important in the city of Boston as well as Worcester. The former mayor, as well as the city manager of Worcester, were both former state senators and reps. And I think it helps to have a city with that kind of leadership.
Thank you. God, you guys are good. This is amazing. Okay, James Ryan, will you please give us a minute?
Sure, I'll hope to keep that going. Thank you, everyone, for having us here and for having me here. My name is James Ryan. And in terms of what sets me apart, I think I can say that I'm the only candidate who is all at the same time a parent, a current public school teacher, a veteran policymaker, all wrapped into one. All of these mean that I not only see firsthand the issues that are being faced by our community's most vulnerable, but I also have the knowledge and experience to address those issues in a way that is always going to be forward thinking. I will always work in the best interests of the city's future because I have to look it in the eyes every day, whether it's in the classroom or, let's be honest, at the diaper changing table. So for those who know me here in Springfield, also know that I'm a guy who shows up. If it's for a vote, no matter how big or small, I'm there. If it's for a demonstration in support of a community that needs solidarity, I'm there. And even if it's a neighborhood park cleanup or a tree planting, I'm there, not just for a photo op, but apparently that surprised people on several occasions, but I'm there to roll up my sleeves and actually get the job.
Thank you. Juan Latorre.
Good evening, and thank you all for being here tonight. My name is Juan Latorre III, and I'm running for an at-large seat on the Springfield City Council. Now, I feel in order to have an effective city council, you need diversity in your skill sets. And so one area that sets me apart is my profession. I'm an engineer. My job requires attention to detail, problem solving, and bringing stakeholders together. So my professional experience is going to enhance the performance of our council. I'm asking residents for their vote because I have the skills and experience to help transform Springfield. I see two distinct visions for our city. My vision brings new leadership that will create good paying jobs in every neighborhood, significant new investments, and an emphasis on improving our quality of life. The other vision is an uneven economic recovery and policies that don't inspire businesses to invest or families to stay. I agree that this election is critical. I feel that the time for change is now, and I'm ready to serve. Thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you. And very much. That was quick. Deborah Fletcher, please.
Thank you for having me.
Deborah, would you like to speak for a minute or so?
Am I unmuted? Yeah, am I
No,
unmuted? Yeah, I'm not.
You are unmuted. We can hear you. You have a minute to open.
Thank you for having me and allowing me to speak to the residents of Springfield. I'm born and raised in Springfield. I am tenant finders of Western Mass, where I specialize in working hand in hand with landlords and tenants. I assist landlords finding suitable tenants for their apartments, their properties, while also placing tenants in suitable and affordable housing. I'm also a licensed massage therapist, providing clients with muscle therapy service. I am a part of an array of organizations, but I don't really choose.
Deborah, you have 15 more seconds.
Oh, I am a part of the Springfield Citizens Police Academy. I too, like the gentleman, have worked voluntarily with Mr. Melvin planting trees throughout the city and especially in Six Corners. And I do separate, what is different with me running for a
Okay,
city
Deborah,
council?
you can fill in more. We had a minute apiece, so we will come back to you with your final statements, and there are many more questions. Thank you. Melvin Edwards, please.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much to all the organizers for allowing me this opportunity to introduce myself. I am Melvin Edwards. I am the sixth-term city councilor from Ward 3. I am a lifelong resident of the city of Springfield and now live on Dexter Street for the past 27 years in the neighborhood of my birth. I am the president of the Maple High Six Corner Neighborhood Council. I am the president of the premier environmental organization in the city of Springfield, which is called Keep Springfield Beautiful. I also am a member of the Springfield Preservation Trust, the Ward 3 Democratic Committee, and I have a history of service that is proven. I am a past member of the Springfield Partners for Community Action. I was a PAP, which is presently known as Wayfinders, and I'm hopeful that at the end of this meeting that I'll have the support of all the viewers today for my reelection to the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Melvin. And Leslie Braxton Campbell.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the Armoury Quadrangle and South End Citizens Council for having me today. Happy to introduce myself. My name is Leslie Braxton Campbell. I currently live in Ward 3 and I'm running for the Ward 3 City Council seat. I've been born and raised in Springfield. I'm a graduate of Springfield Renaissance School and graduate of Westfield State University. For the previous 4 school years, I served as a school teacher, my first year at Kiley and my last 3 years at Chestnut. And so I have a real soft spot for our youth in the city. I currently work at an education nonprofit where I do leadership development and now coach teachers, parents, and students on how to organize around making education more equitable. What sets me apart and why I'm running is I have had experiences being an advocate, that's the best way to call it, and organizing through Neighbor to Neighbor, through the Young Democrats in Massachusetts, through They Say Stonewall Dems on the Massachusetts Commission on LGBTQ Youth. And I plan to bring my voice and my strong passion for advocacy to the council and making sure that I am truly advocating for the residents and being a proactive voice. So thank you for having me tonight.
Excellent. I love the fact that you guys can count to seconds, all of you. And I use
Catery has joined us.
Oh, Catery, wonderful. Catery Walsh, we are making 1-minute opening statements, and I will give you a little ding after when you have 15 seconds left.
Okay, I've been hearing a ding. Is that you? I thought maybe there was something wrong with my iPad.
No, the ding is 15 seconds to go, and then 2 dings is you're done. So take it away.
Okay, well, thank you. And as everyone else will be saying, thank you for the Armoury Common Quadrangle, and I'm happy to see them associated with the South End Civic Association, 2 groups that do a lot for the city of Springfield and are dedicated to making Springfield better. I am one of 2 women running citywide for a re-election to the Springfield City Council, and I got my start in politics at a young age because both my grandparents were elected officials. So we grew up in a household where public service was talked about as the best way to be involved in your community. And then when I moved here to Springfield, after I married Danny Walsh, which is a long time ago now, we moved back to Springfield when he finished his career in the Marine Corps, and his family was involved in politics, both of us having served as city council presidents, raising 7 children here, and we are now the grandparents of 7. My motivation was always to make Springfield the kind of place where children can dream dreams and achieve them.
Thank you. Dreams and achievement. Great. Thank you so much. And now we will begin with the first question. 5 of you will get this question. Shane?
Can I just reiterate to everybody, because we're not getting any questions in the chat. All comments, questions, or concerns, please put in chat. That's the only way they're going to be asked to the council and incumbents. Thank you.
So we will begin, since she is still with us, with Tracy Whitfield. And the first question is, what can the City Council do to encourage small businesses in Metro Center and the South End so that they can remain, thrive, and even expand? And how can new businesses be attracted to open in our city? This is 45 seconds, top of head.
Okay, thank you. So what I encourage new businesses to do is to just get out there and advertise as much as possible. In visiting some of the small businesses, they are struggling during the time of COVID. So I am hopeful that they will apply and know how to apply for the ARPA funds to keep their doors open. Another thing that they can do to become viable or stay viable is go through some of the workforce development programs at Springfield Technical Community College and Holyoke Community College, where I used to work in workforce development. They have a bright young candidate out there that can bring in their family and friends and increase the economic development for the company. Was that giving me 15 seconds or
go ahead? Yeah, that's your 15 warning.
Oh, okay. So to bring economic development and bring more people to their establishment. So I do encourage to utilize those services that our community colleges have to offer. And new businesses, I want to say, do the same exact thing because I don't have enough time to answer.
You can always come back to it. I think I am simply going to say 15 when you have 15 and we'll ding twice for the end. I'd make it easier. Jesse, will you tell us new businesses? Business, how do we encourage? And new business, how do we encourage?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, I think that we need to make it easy and attractive for businesses to locate. I think one of the unfortunate pieces of the casino development is that I think folks thought that that would just attract people right downtown immediately. And unfortunately, because of the price of real estate that actually led to, it hasn't been exactly incentivized, which is why I'm supportive of the efforts of our colleague, Councillor Fenton, in the overlay district, which I think will streamline permitting for local businesses that want to start downtown in those areas, as well as making sure that as we look forward with the ARPA funding, we are able to see funds made available for new businesses, as well as businesses that were working to get off the ground during the pandemic and were knocked back so unfortunately.
Juan, do you need me to repeat the question? Juan, you're muted. There you go.
I'm all set. Thank you, Linda. No, I appreciate it. So the first thing for me, very simple across the board. We need to lower the commercial real estate tax rate. We have the 4th highest in the state. It's only Pittsfield, North Adams, and Holyoke that are higher than us. 3 cities that had their populations decrease over the last 10 years. I think we need to create economic opportunity zones in certain areas of the South End and in Metro Center where we can entice businesses to come to those locations and develop. I think the South End should look at creating a restaurant district along Main Street to entice people to enjoy the restaurants. And finally, I agree with the comments from Councilor Letterman. I think we thought MGM would come in and everything would just build up around it. I think we've got to push a little bit harder on MGM here to drive more investment in and around that casino area. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sean.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to echo some of the sentiments of my colleagues. I think small businesses could, and the applications are available now, avail themselves to some of the COVID-19 ARPA money, particularly in the use of signage and rehabilitation of some of their space within their businesses to make it a little bit more visually appealing in some parts of their business. I also would agree that we do have to link up some of the small businesses downtown again. Echo Councilor Whitfield with the Chamber of Commerce, as well as some of the workforce development grants available throughout the state.
Great, thank you. Deborah, how can we encourage existing business and attract new businesses to our downtown? Deborah, would you like to answer this question?
Am I unmuted?
You are?
Yes, I would. Yes, I would. I agree. Lowering the commercial rate in this city would be great. We have business people who live on the edge of Wilbraham and Springfield, but their businesses are here in Springfield and they pay a lot of taxes. They're not allowed any services, but fire department, and police service. They can't vote and they really don't feel like to participate. So I think that if we work on creating some kind of platform where it's equal for everyone, and then residents must create business proposals. It doesn't take 6 months to create a business proposal. I am perfect proof of that. And I also think that we should be thankful to the cars, the trains.
You can always finish your sentence if I ding you.
Real
Shane?
quick, Tracy Whitfield said in the chat sheet that she has to leave. Thank you, Tracy, for joining us.
Yes, thank you very much, Tracy. And now question 2, the international panel charged with monitoring climate change recently reported a code red with regard to global warming and its worst consequences: extreme heat, fires, storms, flooding, some of which we've experienced here. What can our municipal government do to ensure that the city is part of the solution and not making the problem worse? And we will start with Justin.
I figured I would get a question along those lines. I think first of all, we need to educate people. I think the reality is that even in the question that you asked, it's extremely high level. And when we have folks who are struggling to figure out what to put in the recycle bin, it seems to me that we need to break it down for them just a bit, and in turn, think about how it is that, or explain to them or educate them as to how it is that climate change is actually impacting their daily lives. Not everybody knows that we're the lung capital of the world. Not everybody knows what it looks like to invest in our school buildings and make them more energy efficient. And so we need to find a way to break it down at the most basic level so that people understand the impacts of climate change.
Thank you. James, weigh in.
Absolutely. And actually, this is one of the areas of policy that I've done quite a bit of work in over the past couple of years. So for sure, I would say in addition to what's already been said, a big part of this is making sure that Springfield's energy future is clean. As of right now, we're facing down the prospects of a pipeline expansion that they're calling a redundancy project or a resiliency project. Regardless, it falls upon the council to make sure that those who especially owe tens of millions of dollars in back taxes, or not back taxes, but taxes that are effectively owed.
15 seconds.
Yep. Are being held account for it, and that we're not going to be poisoning and polluting our water and air further. The future is green, the future is clean, and we ought to be working towards it. Thank you.
Thank you. Catering.
For that question, and I kind of figured that would be one you would ask too. And I agree with Councilor Hurst. I think education is very, very important, but I'd like to say that I think the City Council has been very fortunate that we have a department head like Pat Sullivan, who's the head of Parks and Facilities, who has been on top of energy and efficiency and making sure that in all our schools and new buildings that we are aware of what we need to do for this particular issue. And we're all concerned about the environment, either as parents or grandparents, but people have to know. I mean, there's so much information out there. You have to filter through it. It'd be helpful if, there were more seminars and education on that front.
Thank you. And Leslie?
All right, thank you for the question. So similar to Councilor Hurst and Councilor Walsh, education is one important piece. Also, making sure that we're reducing our footprint as a city. Some of us were asked a question yesterday about subsidizing a municipal subsidy in order to make public transit free. And I believe that is a step toward helping reduce our carbon footprint, right? And have clean energy and cleaner air if people can actually get from point A to point B via public transit and not using their vehicles. So I think that's another way for us to move toward that, and I would support that. And also making sure that we're actually recycling and following things we talk about as a city. I say that because as a person that worked in a school building, and I think James knows this too, we have recycle bins, but everything goes into the trash and it doesn't actually get recycled. So making sure that we're actually following the policy we're supposed to be doing.
Great, thank you. And Melvin.
Thank you for the question. I believe that we need to continue to work in opposition to those industries that have chosen to put businesses in Springfield that pollute, those who are not interested or concerned with the air that we breathe. I believe that we need to continue to build on the work that the council and administration has done on retrofitting the schools with our energy, making them more energy efficient. I believe that we need to continue to look for green energies in the operation of all municipal buildings, the acquisition of more cars that are electric and more energy efficient. And we need to do the little things like being conscious of how we pollute and starting with the litter and other things of that nature that address quality of life within our city.
Thank you. I think now if you can see me, if I'm at the top of your screen, I'm going to raise my hand for 15 and say 5 to try to not interrupt you as much. We'd be holding up the signs if we were all in person. So thank you for indulging us on that. And our third round of questions now. What actions should the city be taking to improve conditions in apartment buildings being neglected by absentee landlords while protecting Metro Center and South End residents from the negative effects of gentrification? And we will begin with catering.
I think one thing you can do is start at the beginning and make sure that when people come to us for permits and buildings and businesses, that we make sure that we are dealing with people that are reputable and do not have reputations of being landlords that do not follow through on things. And in the city also, one of the things that they can do is to make sure that all the conditions of special permits are met. Because obviously, if you don't follow, the code enforcement, you can have action, you can take some action on businesses. But I think it's good to start at the beginning and make sure we're bringing good business owners in here.
Thank you. Sean.
Thank you. Our code enforcement has been rather aggressive, I would have to say, over the last few years in regards to absentee landlords. And I think they have done an admirable job of targeting houses that are in disrepair and trying their best to work with those owners to bring them up to code. I would agree with Caterie's comments. Again, for those large scale projects, we need to vet those developers and make sure that they bring a project to Springfield that is up to code and meets specifications.
Thank you. And Juan will take this question also. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I would say 3 things. I agree with the concern about gentrification. So especially in light of looking at this American Rescue Plan money, we have to look at more housing in general, right? And we need to make sure that there's continuous growth in both low income workforce and marketplace housing to make sure that there continues to be opportunities for everyone to find safe and affordable housing. I definitely agree with code enforcement. I'm very concerned with some of the smaller homes used as apartment complexes that landlords may be changing walls and other configurations to turn 3 bedrooms into 5. Definitely want to see more code enforcement. And then, kind of like what Councilor Walsh said, before someone comes before the city council, let's get a history of all the code enforcement violations that landlord has experienced across other properties. Let's know ahead of time how they're doing.
Thank you. Melvin, take this one too.
I believe that we need to expand the inspection and permitting system. We need to put more people in the office that does this type of work. We need to make sure they have the right type of training to be able to see what goes on. For me, it's not just about the absentee landlord. We have plenty of landlords that are on site or live in the city who are not responsible. So we need to have consistency and recognize that in many cases that there should be more resources, that there's things that we can do to help streamline the process as well in terms of accountability and having resources available to eliminate the excuses of not keeping their properties up to code.
Thank you. And Leslie, finish out this round, please.
So code enforcement definitely has to be better in certain areas of the city. And I say that because as I've been at the bottom of Belmont Avenue, going at the top of it, I've seen what some of these buildings look like and talking to these residents, and they are not happy. And I refuse to just blame it on the residents not taking care of the property, because there's no way some of these buildings just got like this overnight. That's been years and years and years of them being run down and these landlords not fixing them up and them not being held accountable. I talked to a woman who had just moved into her apartment to 3rd floor from Holyoke. And, she took the apartment because it was during COVID. And, when she finally got there, and she's like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. And my landlord is not really responding. It's basically kind of like, well, you got what you have. And so I want to make sure that I'm representing those voices and making sure that no matter if you're a renter or a homeowner, you have the best living situation.
Thank you. Now to the next round. Question 4. What role will the City Council play in the distribution of American Rescue Plan funding in Springfield? And what are your priorities for this funding? We will start with Jesse, please.
Thank you so much for the question, Linda. This is going to be one of the largest responsibilities of the local government in the next 2 years, and it's critical that there's transparency and accountability in that process. Earlier this year, I held the first virtual town hall on COVID-19 recovery. We were able to solicit some initial thoughts from residents in the business community about these funds. Colleagues of mine have continued that process as well in their own right. And I think that the administration has gone out and met with your groups as well as others. We need to make sure that that transparent process continues. The policies that I'm bringing forward relative to this at this point are the Housing Trust Fund, as well as a study on municipal broadband and a citywide anti-litter initiative. And I'm looking forward to expanding on that more with all of you.
Thank you. Justin, please. American Rescue Plan. What are we doing with it?
I think we have a significant responsibility, especially in terms of making sure that there's transparency. And when there's not, we need to hold folks accountable. You can't purchase $2.5 million in buildings downtown before you've invested in the neighborhoods that have been disproportionately impacted by COVID-19, which is where these monies are spent. Of course, small businesses, new businesses, investing in the actual individuals in the neighborhoods who are struggling with mental health. I think, I also put forward a plan to incentivize businesses to hire our returning citizens, who I think oftentimes folks forget about. And that also impacts quality of life issues. Thank you.
Great. I think I'm going to allow us to go a little longer on some of these, probably to a minute, because we're doing so well. Thank you so much. We're a little bit ahead of our time.
Hello, Miss Linda. I'm here.
Yes, Deborah.
I haven't received the question yet. I'm sorry.
Deborah, you're next.
Well, I was so hopeful to answer the fossil fuel question.
Well, you may, Deborah, we have another round where you can answer a question you didn't get. So would you like to answer the question about the ARPA funds, or would you like to just move on? Okay, we're gonna let Deborah, I will remind Deborah in the next round where we're all talking that she wants to speak around fossil fuels. So let us start now in this round where we can answer a question that you didn't get. You can respond, expand on an answer. You can respond to something you heard from a colleague, or you may bring up another important issue to you. So this is pretty much for you to deal with, and we will, why don't we begin with Deborah? So Deborah, take it away. Deborah, can you hear me? Okay, going to move on to Leslie.
Am I there? No, am I there? Am I unmuted? Hello?
She's there, you are unmuted. So it is your
thank you. This is new, and I apologize. And thank you for your patience, everyone. Yes, transparency is important. Holding people accountable is deeply concerning to me, being that I know that this money that's coming out, it's for our neighborhoods. Our vacant lots, our empty offices can now be refurbished. We can attract more people if people understand how it works. I also would like to talk about fossil fuel, the green energy. If we keep fossil fuel in the ground and restore nature, it'll absorb more carbon. That's what I really just want to say. I just didn't want to be left out of having an opinion. Thank
Everybody
you so
is
much.
getting 2 of the 4 questions, and then everybody talks in this round, and then we will repeat that. So now, the rest of you, expand on an answer, bring up something new, respond to something that you heard. This is your minute, your free minute to use. I see hands up. Do we want to do it that way? Or I have an order for you, so you don't need to put hands up. Let's see how this works. Let me try it.
Do it in the order that you.
Let me try my order first. Melvin, go. And you can say pass if you don't have anything additional to add. Melvin's muted. Thank you.
I'd like to take this opportunity to speak on my past service to the city of Springfield. I started picking up trash on Walnut Street about 15 years ago with my wife in a bag and some gloves. I got involved because I cared enough about the neighborhood that was chronically underserved. I was the first city councilor in, I believe, about 40 or 50 years that was duly elected from this ward. And I believe that if people would just take the time to look at my record of service, my involvement in the community, and the things that I've wrapped myself around, that they would see that I deserve another opportunity to continue this work. I've been active in the South End. I've been active in Lower Forest Park and in Maple High Six Corners. I hit my first home run in Emerson Wright Park. And so I know from my entire life what the issues are across the city. And I serve not just my ward, but the entire city of Springfield.
Thank you. Leslie.
So I wanted to just add some stuff about the question around ARPA funding. I really think we have an opportunity here to address some of the systemic issues we have in the city at the root cause instead of just throwing Band-Aids with this money. Like, we're actually able, and when I say like root causes, thinking about and where I'd like to invest it, like one, investing in our youth and expanding the community programs we already have and helping out our community centers. And in doing so, and in doing that, especially in Ward 3, that'll also help us reduce the amount of violence that we have when it comes to youth. Because part of that is coming from the fact that our children don't have anything to do, or there's a lack of resources. And so they're turning to that because that's how they're providing for themselves. So that is one thing, along with economic development, and also just thinking about how to address the drug issue that we have in the city, especially over on High Street and Temple Street, because that's going to take more than just the city. That's going to take working with our state officials and programs, and really would like to use that funding to invest in that as well.
Thank you. Jesse, free round.
Thanks, Linda. I wanted to take an opportunity to talk a little bit about the work that we've done on climate justice on the City Council so far. The City of Springfield has a climate action and resilience plan that puts us on a pathway to an 80% reduction in pollution. And I helped write that plan before I was elected. A recent hearing I held showed that we've accomplished 81% of it thus far. And that means we have more work to do. And we also know that the numbers are changing every day. So we need to revise that plan and bring it in line with what our state, national, and global goals are. Furthermore, we've worked together to put an end to polluters being rubber stamped in the city of Springfield. Polluters know when they come before the Springfield City Council that they are going to face tough questions and that they are not going to put anything in the city of Springfield that's going to harm the air quality of the children. Furthermore, I advocated for a rule change to establish the Standing Committee on Sustainability and Environment, which will now exist on the City Council regardless of who's there, to make sure that climate issues stay front and center for generations to come.
Thank you, Councillor. Let's see, Justin. Free round.
Thank you so much, Linda. I think I forgot, as it relates to the ARPA funds, I forgot to talk about merit pay. As a former educator, I realized how difficult the transition must have been from in-person to remote. learning to back to in-person learning. And so I think there are so many people that were on the front lines, including our paraprofessionals, including our custodians who were cleaning the fire stations and the police stations and serving lunches to families, the IT folks, 28,000 laptops to our students, repairing laptops for our teachers. And the reality is we're still in the third or the fourth or the fifth wave of the pandemic with the extremely contagious Delta variant, where our teachers are actually in person, our custodians are in person, our clerks are in person. And so I think those individuals need and deserve merit pay. And in addition to that, it would seem to me that we ought to have paid our unions before and those that were in the trenches before we paid our non-bargaining unit.
Thank you. James.
Sorry about that. Hi, I just wanted to address the question regarding ARPA funding. I think I missed out on the previous 2 rounds, so I want to make sure I got that in. I just wanted to really draw attention to the fact that, at least this is my perspective as a teacher and as a parent, when I look at my students, I see a bunch of students who are on free and reduced lunch, and honestly, what they're receiving could be a lot healthier for them. I see them contending with gun violence. I see them contending with pollution, a lack of prospects and job opportunities. I don't blame them when so many of them say that their biggest plans for after graduating college is to get as far away from Springfield as possible. I would love them to remain here. I think it would be amazing if we invested in things that are going into the people and the communities and the neighborhoods that are most in need of an influx of capital and resources, and actually give it to them. Give them the opportunity to launch from there. I think we'll see wonderful things. Thank you.
Great. Now, did I distract myself, Juan? Have you had your free question yet? Your free round?
I have not, but I'm ready. Thank you, Linda.
Hurrah. Go
Great.
for it.
I'd like to talk about my initiatives for ARPA funding as well. Number 1 is traffic investments. We have got to slow down the rate of traffic in the city. We've got to invest in speed humps and electronic speed signs, and we've got to repaint our crosswalks all across Springfield. Has to happen. Housing is very important, and I think with this ARPA funding, we could be looking at a lot of properties that are very difficult to redevelop and take those initial steps to make those properties available for housing development. Don't forget that a key component of ARPA funding is health and wellness to mitigate the effects of COVID-19. Don't forget that when COVID-19 first came, McDonald's was allowed to stay open, but your local gym had to close. We've got to look at all of our parks and make sure they provide all the recreational resources we need. And finally, I want everyone to think big about tech. Thank you.
You have 15 more seconds, but we can.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. 15 seconds. Then I'll just say,
finish.
We've got the schools. We've got the local education in our public school systems. We've got great engineering programs. We can lure tech companies to Springfield to pay high-paying jobs. I know we can do it with this funding.
Wonderful.
Linda, Sean needed a turn.
Sean is next. Yes, we're not done.
Thank you very much. Just in regards to the ARPA funding, I do think we need to concentrate a little bit of that funding or quite a bit of that funding towards the elderly. In Springfield, we're fortunate to have a tremendous stock of ranch homes in the Indian Orchard, 16 acres, and East Forest Park neighborhoods. We used to have a program here in the city that provided free sidewalks. Perhaps we could use that, some of the ARPA funding, to provide grants for ramps for the elderly who have walkers and wheelchairs, and that they can perhaps better equip their homes to stay in their homes and not go to a nursing home. COVID-19 disproportionately affects the elderly. And I believe we need to retrofit many of these houses, especially with individuals who are elderly and susceptible to COVID-19, so they can stay in their home.
Okay, thank you. Catering, your free thought.
So I have 3 thoughts. One of them is about businesses. When I was chair of finance, I created a committee called the Neighborhood Small Business Development, and it was comprised of people from different neighborhoods, and we met throughout the city. And one of the things that we did was help people start a business, because so many people don't understand the red tape in starting a business. And I think forums like that would be very, very helpful. And also, there are resources like the Massachusetts Small Business Administration that is up at Stick that helps people. And I don't think a lot of people going into business know that. Secondly, I'm glad that my colleague Sean Curran mentioned the elderly, because we've had some meetings with them, and one of their big concerns is transportation. So I am hopeful that there'll be some ways that they can be helped with transportation. But what I really want to focus on is arts and culture, because I sponsored the resolve that created the Springfield Central Cultural District. And that brings arts and culture into the city for young and old. And if you walk around the city, you may see some of the projects like the painted utility box.
She muted herself. Catering, you muted yourself.
Myself, because I wanted to say we created opportunities not only for young and old artists, and we started the practice of giving stipends to young artists starting at 16 to encourage them to as a way of life to get into the arts. So I think arts and culture are very important in the city.
And you will have an opportunity to expand on that if you would like, again, in the last free round. So now let's move to question 5. There have been multiple pedestrian fatalities in Springfield, including a child killed in the heart of the city in front of the public library. How would you improve the safety for pedestrians and bicyclists in the downtown center and the South End? And we will begin with Juan. Now, I just want to say everyone will get 2 of these 4 questions, and then we will have a free round again, followed by concluding statements. So Juan, pedestrian and bicycle safety, how do we actually improve it?
Thank you, Linda. In preparing for this, I came down to the South End, and the thing you notice the most is you come down Belmont Avenue, cross over Locust and get onto Main Street, and you look at those crosswalks and you can barely see them. And then when you get into Metro Center near MGM, suddenly they look very nice again. So that's paint. That's not expensive. That's just about focusing on those small issues. Let's do that. I think we've got to look at every school, not only in Metro Center and the South End, and look at all of our ingress and egress to make sure that we are providing safe walking paths. We've got to invest in more lighting across Metro Center and the South End to make it more safe to walk in the evenings and to ride a bike. And I really want to look at some of these shared streets initiatives, because sometimes they call them shared streets and all you see is a little bicycle image on the road. You don't see a line going across with that. It's not a true divider everywhere. So these are investments that we need to make. And I really would like to see in some of the most heavily trafficked areas, more lighting, caution, and warning signs to slow the traffic down.
Great, thank you. And Justin, will you take this also?
Thank you, Linda. I think Jay hit on a lot of the things that I would have said. I think, I would add to that list signage. I think we need more signage throughout the city in terms of, folks having to slow down and letting people know that this actually is a crosswalk. I think lighting's critical. I don't know how many times I have to put in tickets to 311 for multiple lights out throughout all of State Street. I think over the last 2 months, I put in about 35 to 40 tickets, and some 2 and 3 and 4 times. So that communication has to be much more seamless as well. Crosswalks are a big one. And then I think we just need to incentivize more folks to use public transportation, because the less cars that are on the road, the less issues that folks will have with individual. Oh, was that a stop sign?
No, you'll get
Okay,
the
I'm
ding.
sorry. The less
at the
cars
end.
that are on the road, certainly the safer the streets will be for pedestrians, especially in the downtown area. We need to make it more walkable.
Okay, thank you. Leslie, you take this, please.
So a lot of what I would say has already been hit on by Jay and Justin, but one thing I just want to highlight is making sure and finding a way to reduce the amount of speeding that goes on in the city. So that is investing in speed signs, and also looking at ways like on certain streets, and especially on cut-through streets, to invest or have speed humps. I've had residents literally ask me, like, is there a way to have this happen? Because the ones that live on cut-through streets, people come flying down the street. I have almost gotten hit myself just stepping out to the street because someone's coming down the street at over 50 miles an hour. So We got to make sure that we're holding folks accountable and making sure that we have those signs, those ways to do that. And also, any way that we can encourage people to not drive and use public transportation or use other forms of transportation, that would be great. Especially if we're going to talk about the South End, making sure that we have a bike path all the way through the city, like not just on one side. And so that way people like can ride their bikes or use their other modes of transportation all the way down, and it doesn't stop in a certain place.
Hey, thank you. Catering.
Actually, Linda, this question is very timely because this year I am the chairman of Maintenance and Development, and Councilor Letterman is on the committee with me. And we have really worked very hard this year to have several meetings with the Chris Signoli, head of the DPW, on these issues with concerns that people have brought to us, not only in Indian Orchard, but of course, State Street. And when everybody says State Street, and you know it, you are, and we're Leo, where you guys are in the South End, that terrible tragic accident is on everybody's mind. But we finally got, and Jesse may want to expand on this because he's been pushing this, good news from Chris Signoli that finally, they are looking at ways to make State Street safer. Mass Dot is involved. Consultants have been hired, and I believe in the next 3 or 4 weeks, they're going to come out with their results about how they're going to make State Street safer. As been pointed out, there are probably going to be more people living there in the old school department building. So I think it's been very helpful that Maintenance and Development has taken this on as a crusade to make State Street safer. And of course, Betsy, I can't talk about this without mentioning Betsy and the ideas that Mattoon Street and Armory Street have brought to the Maintenance and Development Committee to address these issues. But I am hopeful that good news is coming.
Thank you. And I think we may ask Councilor Letterman to keep that in mind to fill in if you would like to in your free round. So now we would like to ask, poverty, crime, drugs, homelessness, obvious, serious issues. But how would you address the more mundane quality of life matters? Litter, speeding traffic, metro centers, seemingly ubiquitous parking lots, garages, ramped up car and motorcycle noise that we've been hearing recently, and that can often make living and walking downtown not the pleasant experience it might be. How do we address these more mundane quality of life issues in our neighborhoods? And we'll start with James.
Thank you. And interestingly enough, all this literally came up within the past week or so. We have an AP seminar course where our students are going through and identifying urban development and exactly how everything can become more oriented towards a higher quality of life. Recognizing that in many areas of Springfield, exactly, the littering, the speeding, the motorbikes, everything, it's just not designed for people. It's not. And so in terms of looking at it, it's going to have to require a good hard look at exactly where we stand in terms of our urban planning. We're going to have to take a very good look at where everything is being zoned. In terms of littering, I know that in terms of psychology, there's a lot we'll have to address there. We want to make sure that people are proud of where they live. And when they are more proud of where they live and there's more prospects and opportunity, then the rest of it seems to fall into place. And I believe that's my time.
Thank you. Sean, how about this quality of life?
I'd like to echo some of the sentiments of my colleagues and the candidates that we do need to have a little bit more investment in infrastructure. The condition of our roads as well as lighting is really abysmal in some streets that haven't really received attention in many, many years. Secondly, in terms of speeding, I do think our traffic bureau and the Springfield Police Department is doing an admirable job of getting those speeding signs out there. And post-COVID, I think we've all noticed that people have been driving somewhat more aggressively. And I think it's important that we get out there and perhaps get the word out that we need to start being a little bit more polite as drivers, and perhaps some of those verbal warnings will help with that. And that would be that.
Okay, thank you. Melvin, sorry, quality of life, Melvin, and all that it entails. We want to love being in our neighborhoods. What do we do?
Well, it's difficult. I wish I had an easy answer, but I don't. It requires a multitude of different approaches. One is we need to be more consistent in our enforcement. We have to be responsible individually for our own choices. We choose it, or people choose to throw stuff on the ground. They choose not to care about their neighbor's peace of mind when they're playing their music, or when they're being destructive of other people's property and have no concern. Those issues are really difficult to enforce. But we do need to have more consistency. Lighting certainly helps. There's only the use of more signage. Those are easy, low-hanging fruit. Speed bumps. I believe one of my colleagues is actively working on the legality of putting speed bumps across the city in high traffic areas, making the traffic in the city more walkable and increasing pedestrian traffic, because it's the place where people want to congregate. Bad people don't generally want to do bad things. There's a lot of people around.
Okay, Melvin is muted himself. You can finish your sentence if you hear the ding, please. Okay, and Deborah, would you like to take this? What do we do about our mundane quality of life issues? How do we enhance?
Am I unmuted? Yes.
You are.
Yes, I would. Yes, I would. I agree with Mr. Melvin, Mr. Catering, a whole bunch of people I agree with, but I do agree that littering and burning is not quality of life. Residents must love where they live. They must enjoy and appreciate the city. And I'm trying to really understand, people grown should know to slow down, pick up your trash, be respectful. Our signs, we have plenty of signs throughout the city of Springfield. We have always had signs throughout the city of Springfield. But I think that we need to hold people more accountable for their own actions. And I don't think that we should be telling people not to drive. That's like dictating. It's like telling people they don't have a choice. That's something we can't do. Everyone wants a driver's license. Everyone wants to get from point A to B. So I think that holding people accountable, we must extremely understand that. I'm sorry. I just want to say, I think.
Okay, she's done. Thank you, Deborah. Wonderful. And Jesse, would you like to weigh in on our quality of life?
Sure. There's certainly so many different issues we could talk about on this topic, but I'd like to talk about one that is a pet peeve of mine and has been at the top of my agenda, which is streetlights, streetlights, streetlights. We are the largest city in Massachusetts to have not converted to LED streetlights. We can save millions of dollars on energy costs and reduce our carbon footprint and have better, more reliable lighting by making the transition. We are closer than ever before to doing it. Streetlights have now been added to the capital campaign for LED conversion, and I am confident that if we are able to see the federal infrastructure bill pass and bring those funds here, that we will finally be able to make that transition. So I have been supporting that transition since the time I was elected, and we have stayed after it, and we will get it done in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you. So now let's have some fun. Shake it up a little. This is the lightning round. We have quick answer, we hope, fun questions. Personalizing you are all politicians, as we lay people think of you, but we know you're people too. So we're going to just ask you a couple questions on that show who you are thing. So first, one notable person, past or present, that you admire the most. Who is that? And you've got 15 seconds. Who is it? And a quick why. And we will start with Leslie. Past or present person you admire a lot, and why?
Person from the past, I'm Bayard Rustin. Admire him because he was one of the chief architects behind the March on Washington, although he didn't get credit. And if you don't know why, part of it was because he was a queer Black man. And so one of my idols look up to him. And if you don't know about him, research.
Thank you. Melvin, past or present, person you admire.
Well, unfortunately, many of you may not know that I am the son of the former pastor of the Church of Living God at 22 King Street in Springfield. My mother was my first teacher. She gave me my moral foundation. She put me on the trajectory of being a public servant. She taught me that it was okay to wash somebody else's feet, that I wasn't supposed to judge people by the way they look, and that the greatest gift that God gave us other than his love was freedom of choice. And it was my choice to either do right or not. So unfortunately, and maybe some of you, I believe, who know or had the pleasure and honor of meeting my mother before she passed, but there is no other person in this world other than that is presently living other than my wife that's more important to me than my mother.
Thank you. Deborah, who do you admire?
Am I on music?
Yes.
Oh, yes, present. Ma'am, Dominic Sarno. Why? He is a man of prestige and honesty. I appreciate the pressure he receives, and I appreciate the way he still helps everyone. I've known him for a very long time. The way that he is a manager, the way that he has uplifted.
This is a quick 15 seconds. Thank you. Thank you for that, Deborah. Very articulate. And Juan?
So I'm a Civil War enthusiast. I have a big hero of mine is Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain. If you don't know about him, look him up. He saved the Union from destruction at Gettysburg. He was an educator in Maine and lied to get out of his job and serve the country. And he came home and became a 4-term governor. I was always fascinated by him.
Fantastic. James, history teacher.
Strangely enough, not coming from history, but from the present, actually,
All right.
and just thinking about her is my wife, Jessie Ryan. Not only somebody who has gone through life with ADHD, which gives a variety of struggles, especially in education. She is a teacher and is a wonderful inspiration to so many other students who were just like her. She also happens to be an amazing mother, and I'm so proud of what she's been able to do in that capacity as well. It's just amazing to live with her. Love you.
Thank you. Sean, who do you admire?
Well, I think this week, all of our thoughts are with Mayor Ryan and his family, as we lost Mayor Ryan, a public servant in many years here in the city of Springfield. And not only his work at the Financial Control Board, helping turning the city around, but really his commitment to public service and having the courage to place his name on the ballot. And really that goes for all the candidates here. I think we need people across the spectrum willing to put the city of Springfield first and the betterment of this city of Springfield first, regardless of personal views or party.
Katery, who do you admire?
Well, I'm going to go with family too. And I admire my father. My father lost his father when he was only 12 years old. He had to work very hard to get an education, put himself through a Holy Cross College. And he was fond of telling us that he worked 7 years at night selling Firestone tires to get through Fordham Law School. And he made sure that my brothers and sisters, and there were 7 of us, had great education, but we also got great values in faith, family, honesty, and transparency.
Thank you. Jessie.
Ward 4 City Councilor E. Henry Twiggs. He was the first person to suggest to me that I could run for and win elected office. I miss him every day, and I think about him every time we have a big decision before us.
Thank you. Justin.
I would say my father. I mean, he started with absolutely nothing, dug ditches to get through college, and always thought about his community and the fact that he needed to invest in his community and wouldn't take no for an answer. He wasn't an individual who was out for himself. He was an individual who was out for the betterment of others that were not as fortunate as he was as he got older in life. So he instilled those on myself as well as the rest of my family, and I wouldn't be here without him.
Great, thank you. Now this one is really quick, and we're going to go in the opposite order. Justin, how do you relax?
Wow, that's a tough one. Golfing.
Okay, Jesse, how do you relax?
I mow my lawn.
Great. Catering. Oop, you're muted, catering.
I read and I drink a lot of tea.
Sean.
I put my Zoom to mute.
James.
I run a tabletop RPG campaign, and as strange as that may seem, it's very relaxing when you're writing it.
Great. Juan.
I love puzzles.
Excellent. Deborah, how do you relax?
Binge TV.
Okay. Melvin.
2 dogs, 3 cats, and a loving wife.
Oh. And Leslie.
I read, but with airplane noise as white noise in the background to relax.
Love it. Okay, thank you. Now to a question that was mentioned again. If we can do 45 seconds, right? We're doing wonderfully. And thank you for that lightning round. The question now is, how will you ensure that all residents of Springfield are engaged, well represented, and empowered in the city's political life, and that they feel ownership for the city's future? And we will start with, oh, that was Tracy. She's not here. So we'll start with Juan.
Listen, if I could accomplish one thing, I would like to see us get back into the practice of anyone that comes into the city getting a copy of the Good Neighbor Handbook. That is something we should be sending to every resident to let them know what are our amenities, what are the rules of living in the city, how you can get involved in your local civic association, how you can contact your local representatives. We got to get back to doing that. That's an easy thing we can do, and it doesn't require legislation. Beyond that, I just want to be able to say that I can get out into every neighborhood, speak with residents where they live, where they feel comfortable, whether it's in one of their community centers or meeting them for a cup of coffee somewhere, and encourage them about having and taking ownership in their city, because it's brought so much value to me as a person and a candidate.
Thank you. Justin, civic engagement, how do we do it?
I think you have to go to them. And then not only do you have to go to them, but you have to listen to them. I think there are so many people in the city of Springfield who feel as though they're not heard and their voices are not heard. And the reality is that they have so much to offer us. And the idea that we can legislate just based off of the small people in our circles is just not a good way to govern. And so what I encourage folks to do is to listen to as many people as possible from as many different areas and facets of life that don't mirror yours. And I think you'll find that when you legislate, you'll be doing it on behalf of the people as opposed to just a select few.
Great, thank you. Catering?
I believe is your question about how to get more people involved?
Yes, how do we really get people engaged and feel ownership in the future of this city?
Well, I'd like to say I think we've already done that when we created ward representation, because I think that is the philosophy behind ward representation, to open it up to anybody in the city who wants to run for office, to make it easier. So now you have every single neighborhood in the city represented. They have their own individual counselor who they can go to. So we have broadened democracy in the city of Springfield. But I also think we have to go out to them too and listen. I particularly like to be involved with our church community and visit, because we have so many people of good faith and good people in the city. I enjoy visiting our church communities and getting feedback from all those good people.
Thank you. And I will mention, as Betsy Johnson did in her introduction, that we have very low voter turnout, and voting, we think, is a very important part of civic engagement. So Melvin, will you address this question around civic and political engagement? for
think we have-
all our residents?
I continue to build on what I've been doing for the as a servant to the city. I build on being the president and the work I've done around the neighborhood council as president. The work I've done picking up trash and creating opportunities to get rid of electronics and TVs and other pollutants that would end up in our landfills. It's personalizing it. It's giving myself my own number out on all my business cards and all of my mailers. And just being a visible member of my community so that people feel like they can approach me. I listen to people, I hear what they got to say, and then I spend time trying to connect them with somebody who is more capable of directing them to the resources that they need. And I'd like to say that I just continue to build on that and hopefully improve.
Thank you. Okay. Last question, and then we will turn, just so we're prepared, to the 2 Ward 3 candidates to ask them a very Ward 3 specific question. But our final question is to everyone: if elected, what will be, actually it's to the 5 of you and you could all answer again if you'd like. If elected, what will be your top priority? And we'll start with Leslie.
So my top priority, so I have different ideas and things that I'd like to see, and I've talked about those with voters, and that ranges from neighborhood investment to public health and safety and housing and public transit. But my top priority is what the residents of Ward 3 want to see as well. So I want to make sure that whatever I start to focus on first, it's what the majority of the people directly want. Because as I told folks, I have these ideas, but I want to hear about what do you need and what do you want to see to make sure I'm working on your behalf. And that is a range of things from, like I mentioned earlier, speed bumps on streets, to addressing the housing inequities that we have in the city, to addressing the violence that we have, especially amongst youth. And if I had to pick anything and say that, I want to say that's the first thing I'm going to go toward.
Thank you. Deborah, your top priority if elected.
Yes, thank you for the question. Well, if elected, I plan to bring unity and prosperity to the city, letting our youth and talent shine like, no other, as they are our future, right? My overall goal of the city is to make it safe haven for our children and all residents so that we may grow and to fulfill the potential and continue the legacy of Springfield, city of homes, economic development, safety.
Okay, thank you. Sean, top priority.
My top priority is to increase mobility and economic development here in the city of Springfield. Recently, the U.S. Census came out and stated that the city of Worcester gained 25,000 residents, and they're flocking to Worcester because Worcester has a growing biotech industry. They have jobs. The city of Springfield needs to invest in infrastructure, transportation, and education in order to jumpstart our economy. We need to bring jobs here for young people so they can move up the ladder. We need to improve economic development and mobility.
Hey, James, top priority.
Thank you. Gosh, this one was hard because I've got several of them, but and I do want to give an honorable mention to the other two. They're safer neighborhoods and healthier communities. But my first and foremost, I think, would be just making sure that Springfield is investing taxpayer money towards a 21st century development plan. This has got to include combating our housing shortage and the cost increases. This has to involve attracting and retaining good paying jobs. This has to include prioritizing local and or minority-owned businesses in city contracting, ensuring that all new development is oriented towards climate resilience, municipal internet, strengthening transportation infrastructure, all the good stuff.
Jesse, top priority, take a crack.
I have a number of specific priorities that I've spoken publicly about, but I actually want to talk about something that is relative to Armoury Quadrangle, and that is because one of my top priorities is to remain accountable to the people of Springfield. And in 2017, I came to this very debate and I heard about the issues at the State Street Library crossing, and I promised that we would get something done about it. We put that request in, we got a 16-page manifesto back, and it said the same thing that this neighborhood had been hearing for 20 years. It said, no, we did not let it go. And thankfully, my colleague, Councilor Walsh, mentioned earlier, we are now finally seeing a study done, and we are not going to rest until action is taken at the State Street Library crossing. That is what you can count on from Jesse Letterman in the next term.
Thank you. Now, before we move to the ward councilors, let us have another freestyle round. You may use this as a closing statement. You may expand on an answer. You may answer priorities. This is your minute to do with as you choose. And
Did I get left out there, Linda?
Oh, Justin, you are, did I leave you out? I thought I called on you third, but if I did not, no, you were out. You were out because you already had two questions of these.
Okay,
four.
all right.
So
My apologies.
you, however, can use this round to answer that question if you choose. So go for it.
I don't know if that's quite what I wanted to answer, but I'll start off by saying we need to invest in our neighborhoods. We can't be overly reliant on the ARPA funding as an end-all be-all, as though it's going to fix everything. There were a number of vacant storefronts that I think they need to be rehabilitated. And one way we can do that is to use the millions of dollars in city contracts that are currently going outside of the city to actually invest in current businesses that are here in the city of Springfield. Along with quality of life issues, I think that would be my number one priority. And certainly we've started that already in terms of calling for an audit of the city contracts. And we also want to make sure that they go to also those that have been disproportionately impacted by COVID-19, whether it's women-owned businesses, whether it's minority-owned businesses, whether it's our veterans. We need to really invest and not rely solely on ARPA funding.
Thank you. Juan, a free minute for you.
Would you mind just confirming this is the last statement that the
No,
at-large
actually,
candidates-
we're going to hear from afterwards. We will hear from our Ward 3 councilors and then return. For anyone who wants to stay, you can make a formal closing
Okay,
statement.
thank you for confirming. I got a little confused there for a second.
No,
So I just want to.
This is a lively discussion. Thank you
This
for
is
hanging
going,
in.
it's great. I'm sure everyone's enjoying it. Okay, so I just want to say that a big priority for me is just going to be economic development. 20% of small businesses are estimated to have closed since COVID-19. And I look at the city of Springfield's economy over the last few years, and we've had some big splashes with MGM and CRC and some other large employers come, but we've also seen what happens when we put too much emphasis on the big employers. And Smith & Wesson leaving and losing, close to 550 jobs is a big part of that. So I think we've got to change our economic development strategy. We've got to entice small businesses who are the ones that are more likely to pay that highest commercial tax rate. I also think that if we're going to do that, we've got to look at areas of the city that are really going to need some persuasion to bring in businesses. And I'd just like to mention one thing about State Street. I participated in a couple of those forums, and I'm excited to hear what this report's going to come back, but I hope we can think big, because I think that right solution is a pedestrian bridge. It'll slow down traffic. It eliminates the chance of people crossing State Street. And I can see banners on either side. Welcome to downtown Springfield. Here are the events that are going on. I would love to see that. And it can be done tastefully. I really think so.
James, your minute.
I'll give it to one of my other priorities, I guess, looking at the healthy communities. The fact is, we as a state have one of the best public health systems in the nation, but it's a very different story here in Springfield, especially in Armoury Quadrangle and down South End. Our community's health disparities need to be cured as soon as possible. And I want to make sure that we're not only set to go now, but we're fully prepared for future pandemics. I want to guarantee cleaner air, water, and living conditions as a right of living here. I want to end food insecurity and to have a comprehensive plan to expand transportation, market, and community garden options. I want to strengthen our city's behavioral health system, promoting mental health and combating the ongoing opioid crisis. And I'd like to address racial equity in terms of our public health systems. Thank you.
Thank you. Catering.
Is that, yeah, what I would like to say is that my top priority for the city of Springfield is public safety. And many of us on the call, my colleagues, we have co-sponsored and resolved and an ordinance that was passed to reestablish the police commission. I think that will go a long way for accountability and transparency in the police department. I think that's one of the key issues, trust. And we know it's in the courts, so we really don't know what the outcome of that will be, but I am hopeful that the city council will prevail. When the city council passes an ordinance, it usually takes effect immediately. We passed it, the mayor overrode it. The mayor vetoed it, we overrode it, and we thought we were finally getting someplace, but we're still waiting for a decision from the courts. The other thing, I had a very nice incident that happened today in the South End. Leo, getting ready for the debate tonight, I was supporting a small business in the South End for lunch. And as I was leaving, a very nice young fireman came up to me, called me Mrs. Walsh, I'd rather be called Catering. And he said, I just want to thank you. I am one of the people who benefited from the Brave Act. I'm very proud to have been the lead sponsor with Councilor Hurst to bring the Brave Act into legislation for the city of Springfield, because the Brave Act makes sure that our city employees who are deployed for military service don't lose their benefits. I was horrified to learn that people's insurance benefits were cut when they were serving our country. So I'm very proud to be the co-sponsor of that. And it was very nice to put a face to someone who had been deployed to Iraq, Kosovo, and Egypt, who benefited from that legislation.
Okay, Jesse, your minute.
Wanted to take a minute to talk about an issue that hasn't yet come up, and that is the state of internet service here in the city of Springfield. We know, especially in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, that the internet has really become an essential utility for families and for businesses in Springfield and across our country. And unfortunately, right now, we have very limited options in terms of our internet service provider. We really only have one broadband provider, and that means that with a monopoly, that company can do whatever it wants. During the pandemic, that meant that they attempted to impose data caps for the first time to essentially raise prices on customers. And we fought that. We built a coalition of city councilors throughout the Pioneer Valley who fought that and got that pushed back. And now I'm pushing for us to invest in a municipal fiber internet system so that we are not left behind as other communities move ahead with the future of the internet. A municipal fiber system will lower costs, it will ensure access, it will ensure local control of this utility that we know it is. And so we are glad that the administration has committed to funding a feasibility study on municipal fiber. Oh, sorry. I got distracted with which one, got distracted with that. If it was the bell or the hand, Linda. Sorry.
The bell or the hand? The hand is, you got 15 seconds left. Okay. Thank you all.
Well, we're moving forward with municipal fiber.
Wonderful. Thank you. And so, Deborah, you have a minute for a freestyle.
Thank you. Economic development. Holding people accountable. Piggybacking off a lot what Ms. Catering said, who's going to look at our police records? That's what my deepest concern is. Secondly, a former council president and an attorney from a political connected family, I never understood how we could bring such a program of marijuana back to Springfield. And most of our constituents and our residents, they can't get involved. So when we talk about seniors and citizens can't fix their houses, well, if we held people accountable that made 19 mistakes intentionally, I think we could do a whole lot. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then Leslie, and we'll finish with Melvin. Leslie, your minute.
All right, so I want to take this to address a question I didn't get, which is around civic engagement. And I truly believe that the responsibility also falls on candidates and elected officials to keep people engaged. And there are ways to do that without reinventing the wheel. In one of my capacities as president of Young Democrats of Massachusetts, we have conversations like all the time with other elected officials, young elected officials, about how do you keep your residents engaged and how do you drive voter turnout and keep people engaged when it's not election time. And I plan to use some of the things that I've learned should I become the next city councilor for Ward 3 to keep people engaged and to make sure that I'm bringing everybody to the city council in Ward 3 and that they're not just seeing things during election time and also missing out on election or just feeling like they don't know what's going on in the city. But we have to go to the people and we have to be innovative. It's 2021, there's different ways to do things.
Thank you. Melvin, your time.
Thank you. I've heard from my constituents, and one of the big concerns has been litter. When I first came on the council, I was the green counselor. I was the first environmentalist. I've handed off that to my colleague, Jesse Letterman now. But I'd like to just point out or make you aware that we have been working very diligently on a plan that would address litter and trash across all 17 neighborhoods of the city of Springfield. We've come up with a plan that would take young people, high school students, pay them a stipend, and have a college student also be paid a stipend, and set out teams across the city on a regular basis for 3 months out of the year to be able to pick up trash, encourage environmental responsibility. And I'm hopeful that hopeful that plan will be funded, and I believe that it's been well received by the administration. So I'm very confident that in the near future, we'll be announcing that plan and giving out more details.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And now we will have a question specifically to our 2 Ward 3 contenders, incumbent Melvin Edwards, as we know, and challenger Leslie Braxton Campbell. So the question is, very specifically, what do you perceive as the biggest problems in the South End? And how will you work to resolve them? The biggest problems. We're looking for some priorities here. And we will begin with the challenger. Leslie, please. You'll have a minute to answer.
So some of the biggest problems I perceive and also what I've heard and learned are around having more businesses. And when I say more businesses, the South End not turning into a police parking lot. Because as you walk through the South End, there's still some opportunity for economic development there. Also, and this is, again, like what I've heard the most of and what I've seen is around gun violence or gang violence or just like youth violence in certain parts of the South End, and how is that going to be solved? And asking people, like, do they want more police presence? Like, do they feel like 911's not responding enough? Like, what is it? They want the violence to stop, but just don't feel like the police are the solutions. And that's like what I've heard from the people I've talked to. Now, I know, and I'll acknowledge that I haven't got to talk to South End Citizens Council yet, or really got to speak with the folks who are part of that. And I would plan to work with them in order to address those issues. And also one other thing that I want to highlight as well, because I talked about this earlier in High and Temple Street, but having the methadone clinic in a part of the South End and all of the things that come with that. We have to address all of the issues that come with that clinic being over there. And while, like, yes, I do believe, like, in its goal, I don't necessarily believe that it should be where it is located.
Okay, thank you. We gave Leslie 90 seconds. He was ramped up. Melvin, 90 seconds if you choose, please.
Well, the number one, or one of the number one concerns in the South End is, in fact, the methadone clinic and the negative activity that goes along with it. But we also need to recognize that the South End of Springfield is not just Main Street. It's all of the side streets and the residential people who live on Wilmot and other parts of the city, the neighborhood. We need to recognize when we think about the South End, all we think about is Main Street and the cars that are going through. We need to invest in businesses and good quality businesses. It can't, and we need to hold the business owners that are operating down there. They have a responsibility to the neighborhood. They have to be responsibility not just to make money and take it from the neighborhood, but to be civically engaged. We can do better, and I hopefully that working with the neighbors and continuing to listen to them, that we can make things better in that community and recognize that all the people down there don't just live on Main Street.
Thank you. Thank you. Now we will ask you to each make, if you have prepared them, a formal closing statement. We're ready to hear it. We hope we will hear, if we haven't already, why you deserve our votes. What sets you apart? Give us the pitch. Why should we vote for you? Or any, obviously, if you've already told us that clearly, make your formal statements. And then we'll see if there are any questions from the audience. Shane will moderate that part. So we will begin with Justin, your closing.
Thank you, Linda. I certainly appreciate the opportunity to be before you all today. I'm gonna continue to fight. I'm gonna continue to be a voice for the community. I'm gonna continue to battle against police brutality. I'm gonna continue to fight for police reform. I'm gonna continue to fight for residency because we know what that does for our city. I'm gonna continue to fight for contracts to be invested right here in Springfield and not in the surrounding areas. I'm gonna continue to push to make sure that our marijuana zoning and ordinance is enforced to a T, which I think is one of the best in the state. I'm gonna continue to call out individuals when they're not transparent and they're not accountable. And sometimes that includes myself, which is what I did earlier when I contacted OCPF, when I realized I made a mistake. I'm not perfect. If you want a perfect candidate, it's not me. It's not me. But what I can tell you is I will continue to fight with all my heart and passion for the residents of Springfield, as I've done all along. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go incumbent, challenger, and that challenger is James.
Thanks. And I'll just finish by thanking everybody here, the community leaders, our gracious hosts, and my fellow candidates. It's been great to be in these along with you. I'll also say that Springfield's my home. It's where I got to achieve this millennial American dream. I can actually have a good paying job, own a house, and raise a family. This is where I started my teaching career years ago, and it's where I want to teach for many more. And it's also where I've had the opportunity to work alongside so many amazing people as we just try to make life a little bit better. We've also seen our city get hit hard by this pandemic, but we've also seen COVID-19 highlight issues that we've been facing for generations. When I became an Eagle Scout 12 years ago, I made a promise that I would always serve my community, tackle the issues we face head on, and get the job done. And that's what I want to bring to City Hall. And you know what, not for nothing, but technically speaking, I'm the fiscally responsible candidate here. As a Springfield Public Schools teacher, I can't take a salary for this. So take that how you will.
Thank you. Jesse, your closing, please.
Well, thank you so much, Linda, and to all the sponsoring organizations and organizers. This has been a fantastic format as far as Zoom forums go. Really enjoyable to be here with you and answer your questions. Listen, in 2017, you all took a chance on me. You helped me become the youngest city councilor elected in the recent history of the city of Springfield. I didn't come from a big political family or a family with a lot of money, but together we've been able to deliver real results for the South End, for Armoury Quadrangle, and for all of our 17 neighborhoods across Springfield. I'm very proud of the legislation that we've been able to file and pass together. I'm very proud of the town hall meetings that we've held across the city of Springfield. I'm very proud of the nights that I sat with all of you in your offices and listened to the issues that were going on in your neighborhoods. If I'm fortunate enough to be reelected again, I'm going to continue that work. We're going to continue that work together, because now is the time to think big and towards the future. And that's what you can count on from Jesse Letterman. Thank you.
Thank you. Challenger Juan Latorre III. Your closing, please.
I want to thank the South End Citizens Council and the Armoury Quadrangle Civic Association for hosting tonight's forum, and our residents for taking the time to learn where the candidates stand on the issues. My service to our community has prepared me to serve as your city councilor. I owe so much to the education I received in Springfield, and I've been working ever since to pay Springfield back. Whether it's running a Boy Scout troop, serving meals to the homeless, reading to elementary school students, leading food drives, or promoting local restaurants, I've always been there, doing the real work needed to help our city prosper. This transformative election is going to decide how we spend a once-in-a-century investment. We need leaders that have the broad vision, the right temperament, and the humility to get this right. I ask for your vote on November 2nd to help grow Springfield together. My name is Juan Latorre III. You can reach me at 413-219-8305. And I look forward to serving as your next at-large city councilor. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan. Catering?
In addition to the issues that I raised tonight, I'd like to say that I have a record. And someone said earlier that we were politicians. Well, I don't see myself as a politician. I see myself as a public servant. And I have a philosophy and a record. Not only that, I'm experienced, I'm reasonable, and I'm fair. And I believe that that attitude and mindset has been an asset to the city of Springfield. And I would be honored to be returned to the Springfield City Council and continue the service that I have been doing for you and be a voice for every neighborhood and civic association in the city. So this was a fun format, and I'm really happy I got an opportunity to talk about my father. That was very meaningful. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sean, your closing, please.
Thank you. We have come through an unprecedented time with the COVID-19 pandemic, and we have done so together as the city of Springfield. And we now have an unprecedented opportunity with this economic development and COVID-19 funding from the federal government, $120 million, to transform the city of Springfield. And I hope that we concentrate in areas, again, of economic development, infrastructure, investment, and educational opportunities and expansion. The city of Springfield needs one thing really above all else, and that's jobs, job creation. And again, when you compare the city of Worcester that has gained 25,000 residents, we are falling behind that community. And I believe that this is an opportunity for us to help bring some economic development and people back to the city of homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Leslie, please close.
So again, thank you for having me and having this forum today. I'm glad I got to come before. I want to talk about my plans and ideals. Why am I running, and why when I asked voters of Ward 3 to choose me? Plain and simple. I have shown myself as an advocate in the work that I've done in the different organizations. And as said before, I may not be an elected official yet. However, I have shown that I can get things done. It's just through my leadership in the community. And when I decided to run, right, it wasn't to make a name for myself. It wasn't because it was a stepping stone. It's because I believe that residents of Ward 3 deserve bold leadership and deserve somebody who's going to be an active voice consistently and making sure that they're fighting for the residents. And I have done that in many different ways for the teachers in my building, for my students that are inside the district and also across the Commonwealth. And I plan to do that for the residents of Ward 3. So that you consider voting for me. And I can be reached at 413-356-0340.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And now we have some time. You've been wonderful. Thank you. Such precision, such
Linda?
good brains, this
Do I get-
array.
You need to get Melvin.
Oh, Melvin, I am so sorry. I got check mark happy. Please, Melvin, wrap up the forum.
Well, first of all, thank you to the organizers. Thank you to all of the candidates. It's been an honor to sit on this podium with you. I am the proven public servant. By any other title, I'll gladly accept that. I've shepherded this neighborhood and this ward through the tornado. I've been at the table advocating for the building of the new school. I was in the part of the conversation for the new South End Community Center. Every park in Ward 3 has had a renovation. We have housing that has been renovated in the Hollywood section. We are awaiting the development of 30-something townhouses on the former Gemini site. The former booking school has been renovated. It was in the process of being renovated into housing. And I believe that I have a record. I believe whether it's the intersections and the creation of jobs, I believe that I have been able to work civilly with the administration and with my colleagues and that I've laid a strong foundation for the future of Ward 3. And the oath I take is for the entire city. So I'm running for re-election to continue the progress, and I humbly ask for your vote and your partnership moving forward to be the Ward 3 City Councilor. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, Shane, I believe you have some questions from the audience. So I will turn this forum over to you.
I'm sorry, Miss Linda, you missed me. I'm sorry.
Oh, Deborah, what is, oh my heavens.
That's because
That
I'm gonna
we
get my
broke
picture
down
up
at the
next time.
end.
That's all right.
We broke
Keep her on
down at the
track,
end.
Deborah.
Go, Deborah,
Okay.
go.
Yeah, thank you so much to everyone. I don't want to mess up none of my time. I need it all. Thank you so much. But being born and raised in Springfield, it would only make sense to want to be involved in my community. And everybody in Springfield knows I've never fell off, no matter whose election won or didn't win. I'm still here, and now I get to be here. So that's the beauty that we have in our city of Springfield. It is time for us to come together as unity. Our police, our safety, that is our first line of defense. We can't keep bashing our citizens and keeping constituents in conflicted situations in their souls at night because of division. We have to, in order to have growth, you have to have unity. And I am honest. Everybody knows I'm an honest person. I'm optimistic. I'm seen as an anchor. It's over?
No.
15 left.
Oh. Okay, right on. And I believe with all those qualities that everyone in the city of Springfield already knows about me, I think that we can all move forward and grow to all of these plans that we so want to see for all of us equally. Thank you so much. And please vote for Deborah Fletcher November 2nd.
Thank you. Now, everyone has spoken. So sorry. Shane, take it away.
Linda, I ask that you keep time for everybody, because we only gotten 2 questions for the candidates, and I figured 45 seconds for each question for each candidate to answer. So do you mind keeping time for that?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, the first question comes from Neighborhood Council Kathy Brown, East Springfield Neighborhood Council President Kathy Brown. She writes, what do you see as the top 3 quality of life issues, and how will you address them? I'll start with Melvin. You have 45 seconds.
I've talked to the council president about the special permits, and I'm hopeful very shortly to announce that we are going to increase our enforcement. We grant these permits and we walk away from them. The second thing is the perception of the city not being safe. We need to do a better job of marketing ourselves and recognize that we have some beautiful neighborhoods, and even in the areas that are not as nice, there is always good people, and always more good people than there are bad. I believe that a solution to many of the social problems that exist in the city of Springfield is jobs, good paying jobs. And I look forward to continuing my work as a chairman of the Responsible Employer Ordinance Committee, monitoring taxpayer dollars that are going for construction. Thank you.
Thank you. Catering? Same question.
Yeah, it's important, and Councilor Edwards said it, safety. I think public safety is the #1 priority, followed by economic development and jobs. And I'd like to say that one of the things that the city council does, and we have done it countless times, and I think it's a way of recognizing people who have done good things in the city, is through our proclamation night and recognizing and thanking businesses and people who have made Springfield better. And I think we will continue to do that.
Thank you, catering. Jesse?
Thank you, Shane. I agree with my colleagues, and I'd like to take a moment to highlight a major quality of life issue as I see it, which is housing. We have some of the oldest housing stock in the city. We also have a housing, or in the state, we also have a housing shortage. We know from a recent study commissioned by Wayfinders and the Donahue Institute, and that's at every level. That's why myself, Councilor Edwards, and several colleagues of ours are proposing the creation of a housing trust fund. We're looking forward to bringing that legislation forward. That will empower homeowners to be able to make exterior and foundational repairs to their homes that they may not have been able to before. We know we have a large senior population on a fixed income who have homes that they may not have been able to make those investments in. That's important. And also that can go towards the reconstruction, rebuilding of blighted properties across our city to make them available for families to call home.
Thank you, Jesse. Councilman Hurst?
Thank you. I would say infrastructure, roads and sidewalks. We know we just don't pave enough, and we have a number of roads that are in poor condition. We have a number of sidewalks that are in poor condition. I think the wait list, I don't know, what was it, 5-10 years, maybe 10, might be more like 15 years to get your sidewalk paved. Something astronomical. I think Jesse hit on the dilapidated housing here in the city of Springfield. For me, that's a problem. And then the other thing is, we don't have a presence. We don't have enough people that are frequenting our downtown, and we haven't invested in our neighborhoods. And so I think we need to invest which Councilor Wall said earlier, in arts and culture. We need to find a way to make sure that people are frequenting the Mass Mutual Center, that people are frequenting Symphony Hall, that it's culturally diverse. And we just, we need to expand on what folks are already doing. I just received an email in which there were a number, there were some things that were happening downtown with respect to entertainment, but we need to do more.
We only
Sorry.
have 45 seconds each.
Sorry, Shane.
That's okay. Thank you. Councilman Kern?
I think, again, quality of life, infrastructure, again, to echo my colleagues' sentiments, we need to invest in streets all over the city, Carew Street, Liberty Street, Main Street in the north end and the south end, Sumner Avenue. We really need to really put an emphasis on this problem here in the city of Springfield. 5 or 6 years is too long to wait. We can't wait till the year 2028 for these streets and the lighting improvements. That's just that we can't stand for that. Secondly, traffic enforcement. This dirt bike problem, I think the council has addressed, led by Councilor Orlando Ramos, as well as the firework issue. I think we are making strides on that. Those are heavy quality of life issues. And lastly, of course, job creation. We need to increase our efforts on job creation. 15 years ago, we had a financial control board. We really need an economic development control board to come in here and give us some plans, bring in some experts to bring some jobs to the city of Springfield.
Thank you. Deborah Fletcher. Same question, 45 seconds.
Yes, hello. Yes, hello. What is the question, please? I'm
The
sorry.
question is what do you see as the top 3 quality of life issues and how would you address them?
Safety is the number one priority, right? City council is the most powerful tool, and it is about providing safety for all walks of life. And I believe that we can all come together and engage more people if we check transparency on everyone, no matter who you are. And if we bring people together by engaging them, well, we already have a city full of apprentices already certified, already ready to go. So infrastructure is always going to be a part of us. I don't even know how many minutes I can count, but yeah, it's about safety, infrastructure, equal opportunities removes any talk of racism.
Thank you very much. James Ryan, please.
Thanks, and I'm glad that Councilor Curran brought up how long it takes to get our roads fixed. By my count, the project going on in St. James has been taking longer, and I agree. Safer streets, both in terms of infrastructure, traffic, even violence, looking at littering and pollution. When people feel that they are living in a clean community, they're going to keep it clean. We've seen it everywhere else. And in terms of economic development, absolutely, the people of Springfield deserve good paying jobs. They deserve a good roof over their heads, and they deserve to have a healthy lifestyle, whether this be healthy food that we combat through addressing food desertification or just creating more recreational opportunities. I want to see dream courts everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Leslie Campbell.
Yeah, so probably echoing a lot of what was already said, but housing and infrastructure being number one, our sidewalks and roads. I will be the first, I'll admit it, I tripped and busted my behind while I was canvassing one day because the way the sidewalk is. And I had a resident complaining about that. And he said he's talked to the city, it's been that way for a couple of years, and it's not gonna get fixed anytime soon. So definitely our housing and our infrastructure. Also, economic development and investment. And I think about this, like obviously from the social aspect, what do people have to do so that way they're not going out and doing like other things that they shouldn't be doing? And so when we do that, that increases the quality of life, and it helps us retain the talent we need for the workforce. It helps us retain the people that we want here, and it helps our population grow and contributes to the growth of the city.
Thank you. Juan? Thank you.
Thank you. City services is number one. We have people that pay taxes to live here. They have to have quality services. I love that you can call 311 when you need something from the city. But if I call and say I need tree trimming and they take 2.5 years to show up, what are we paying for? We've also talked about road safety. We've just got to slow down the traffic. And then finally, a third issue we haven't touched about much is housing near college campuses. We have landlords, whether in the city or absentee, that are crowding students into homes. They're creating a ruckus in the evenings and affecting the quality of life. We haven't seen any major infrastructure enhancements on the college campuses in terms of dormitories in a long time. That's putting some stresses on our neighborhoods. And colleges obtain a lot of services from our city, but they don't pay any real estate taxes. I think it's time to have a conversation about how they can be better partners for the city.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, President Kathy Brown, for the Neighborhood Council, East Springfield Neighborhood Council. And for the second question, I'm going to, it is from, I'm sorry, Kira Holmes from the Springfield Preservation. This is to all the candidates. What do you do to address the collection of the tornado damaged historic buildings on the Commonwealth Academy campus? We'll go backwards. Juan, we'll start with you.
Shane, can I just intervene? We had said till 8. We are at 8. If anyone has another engagement that they must leave for, I think we need to respect that. So thank you.
Well, and maybe just the answers should be like 30 seconds.
There you go.
That would only have us go 5 minutes late.
Thank you.
Juan?
Okay, good to go. Okay, very good. You know, it breaks my heart to see that property. I would love to see an RFP put out to reuse that property. We've got to go out nationally and find another educational system that would be interested in using that property. It would be great to have that used for education again. Let's put an RFP out there. Let's use some economic tax credits. Let's use ARPA funding if necessary to help restore that property and make it more attractive for development. Let's bring education to that local location again.
Thank you. Leslie, 30 seconds.
So similar to what Jerry just said, you know, I live basically directly across the street from that property. And every time I go by it, I hate to see like how it looks. I do know that there are different, I believe, food banks. There's different things that do occur there, but investing in it, and would love to see however we invest in it, making sure that it benefits the residents of the city and specifically the residents of Ward 3. And I am all for, especially repurposing places like that for educational purposes, because we have 62 schools in the city, and there's a lot of work that can be done to give them better buildings and places for educational activities.
Thank you, Leslie. James?
Thanks. Just to, I guess, to echo in, making sure that we are finding restoration projects and reuse projects that are going to make sense for the community. I'm a big fan of adaptive reuse programs, and so looking into what we can do to fill in what's been left there educationally, economically, making sure that we are working with permit fee waivers and streamlined timelines for any project that gets eligible. I think there's plenty that we can do there. Thank you.
Thank you. Deborah?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. Oh, yes, I'm here. the first thing would be important is to make sure that we maintain and keep up to, par, so that we can make sure that they're just not eyesores in the city. And yeah, keeping it near the education and just making sure that we have people who we vet really well that are interested in our residents in the city of Springfield's growth and not some ambitious walk. Yes, I hope I answered the question.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Curran?
Yes, I think this is a project that is uniquely designed for the opportunity we have, again, with the ARPA's funds. Again, it's $120 million. This might be an opportunity to invest some of that into a project such as this. In addition, perhaps we could reach out to the community, Springfield Community Preservation, which has done a great job throughout the city of Springfield, revitalizing major projects and providing stakeholders and some advice on how to do so. And direction. So that I think is should be a priority, and it's a timely one. Right now we have the money. Perhaps this is a priority on which we can spend it.
Thank you. Councilman Hurst.
Yeah, Councilor Curran just took what I was going to say. Certainly ARPA funding, Community Preservation Act funding, if applicable. And then I think we need to start having a discussion. I mean, this is, we haven't had, this hasn't been at the forefront. And so I think we need to put it at the forefront.
Thank you. Councilman Letterman.
Thanks, Shane. Full disclosure, I'm on the board of directors of the Springfield Preservation Trust, and Kira does a great job. But I agree with my colleagues, Councilor Curran and Councilor Hurst. This hasn't been one that's really come before us, but certainly would be supportive of the funds that are available. I think CPA issue is, they only go up to 250,000, and like with so many historic buildings, the investment is going to need to be much greater there. But I think you would definitely find a receptive council if you want to broker a conversation between councilors and who's ever in control there right now. I think it would be a productive one, and I'm sure others will have more to say as well.
Thank you. Councilwoman Walsh.
Thanks for the question, but I am at a disadvantage because I did not hear what you were referring to in the beginning.
The question was, what would you do to address the collection of tornado damaged historic buildings on the Commonwealth Academy campus?
Okay, well, what we haven't talked about, well, we have sort of referred to it, but I'd like to see something with the ARPA funds and the CPA, and my colleagues have said, for youth. I think there has to be more opportunity for our young people to have places where they can go, where they can be safe, where they can learn things. I recently attended an event in Indian Orchard, and one of the booths there, they had people there that were championing chess in the park. I mean, what a wonderful thing. But where do people go for that? I think we need to have more opportunities to keep our kids safe and out of gangs, and with mentors who would be role models.
Thank you. Councilman Edwards.
Well, I support the idea of using either CPA money or the ARPA funds to support this project. One of the things that hasn't been mentioned by any of my colleagues is this property is privately owned. So the city is limited in what it can do. We can't just go in and take somebody's property. If they are out of code, then obviously the city can step in. But this entire campus is owned by one entity, and the city would have to work directly with them for any type of improvements. But I do support, just as I have supported the work that Councilor Letterman, President Williams, and Councilor Brown have done around the housing trust. Some of that money may be available to help with the historic preservation of that property.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Kira Holmes from the Springfield Preservation Trust, for that question. To wrap everything up, I would like to thank everybody, all the councilmen and women and challengers for your time. President of the Quadrangle Civic Association, Betsy Johnson, President of the South End Citizens Council, Leo Florian. Thank you very much for being here. And I hope we made it a little easier for everyone to make an educated and informed decision when you vote on Tuesday, November 2nd. Thank you all for joining us. Have a great night.
Counselors, and you all give each other a hand, please.
Thank you. Well, and special thanks to Linda.
A lot of work was done here tonight.
Yeah.
And
Linda, Shane, Leo, Betsy, thank you. But I did have
Okay.
an appointment.
Great
Gotta-
format tonight, everyone. Just great job. Very
thank
enjoyable.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good luck, everyone.
Have a
Good
great
one,
night.
everybody.
Good job.
Good night.
Right.